Yeah, I did do updates again on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then we added the printers, so the printers should be working.
Okay,
That printer back there.
thank you. So starting on chapter 2, we're looking at the whole first part of essentially Schedule 1, right? What's gross income and what's included in income and what's excluded from income. And this is just kind of a laundry list of the different items of income and the different kinds of exclusions. And then they sort of randomly threw in a couple topics like down here in these bottom bullets, at the very bottom bullet, community property states. We're going to be talking a little bit about educational savings vehicles, not 100% when after we had the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, they rewrote the whole tax book and sort of, there's just random topics inserted in chapters. Anyways, I just wanted to point that out. But this is primarily about gross income, which is a pretty big issue. Okay, so the very first thing that you need to know about it, because you'll have clients all the time that'll say, hey, I rent out my back field and let somebody, put their horses on it to graze. I charge them $150 a month. Is that taxable income? 99% of the time the answer is yes. And here's why. First bullet, tax code defines gross income as all income from whatever source derived, right? So the only time you can exclude something is if it is specifically excluded in tax code, right? And that I highlighted in blue. So unless something is identified in tax code as you do not have to pay tax on this, then you do have to pay tax on it. So the first thing, for those of you that have a book, I just want to show you on page 2-3, you've got 2 tables, and those are the tables that give you a very comprehensive list of what's included and what's excluded. Okay, so you'll see things, and I mean, I'm not going to sit here and read this to you, but it's fairly interesting. For example, a lot of people don't know, like, is unemployment taxable, yes or no? Opposite. Oh, it's taxable in the feds, because it's in the inclusion list, but in Montana, we don't pay tax on it. Same with tips. It's included for feds, but in Montana, we don't pay tax on tips. Workers' comp isn't taxable anywhere. Disability isn't taxable anywhere. Well, you wouldn't know this, but you've got this list. So I would, star that or tag that or however you keep track of important pieces of textbooks, because this is a pretty big list. It's not all inclusive, but it's the big stuff, the most common stuff.
So gifts, are they excluded up to a certain age?
Gifts on an annual basis are excluded, and this number changes every year. I can't tell you what it is for 2019, but it's around $14,500. I just had a great example of that. One of my clients called and said their son just moved back to town. They want to sell some stock and help him get into a house. And they're like, should we give him the stock and then he sells it, or should we sell it and then give it to him? And I said, you can give him up to $14,500 each. So he and his wife, so up to $29,000. That must be the number because I just looked it up, without paying gift tax. But if they wanted to give him $290,000, they couldn't. They would have to pay something called gift tax. That's way above our scope here. But if you gift big chunks of money, you have to file a gift tax return. Because the IRS is worried that you're passing your estate to your kids or your heirs without anybody paying tax on appreciated assets. Okay, so that's beyond our scope. But in general, gifts up to $14,500 per person per year are taxable. Okay, let's see. So, and we talked a little bit about this barter transactions. I do tax return for you, and you cut my hair. I do tax return for you, you come to my trees. Is that taxable? Certainly, it's barter. It's income, just because I get cash. Or I maintain all of your computers at your company, and in exchange, you give me some stock options in your firm. It's not cash. Is it taxable? Sure. Now there's this whole world that the IRS is very nervous about, which is most of us call it Bitcoin, but that's just one type of virtual currency. And they're developing methods to track virtual currency because, of course, if you're buying or you're earning income and generating virtual currency, that is in fact taxable as well, right? Okay, salaries and wages. 83% of all tax returns filed include some amount for wages and salaries. Now, let's take a look at a W-2. You've all gotten W-2s, obviously. I'm sure you've all had jobs. But I do want to go over this because honestly, this is probably, that number's probably very close to, 83% of all the input I do into my tax software is a W-2. Okay, so let's take a peek. I just want to point out a couple things on the top of page 2-5. And the first thing I want to ask you is why do you think boxes, what do you guys think?
They have embezzlement, embezzled income.
Oh, it's reportable. It's reportable.
And gains from.
Oh, so it's from the employer side?
Yes. And gains from what?
Gains from illegal activity.
Yeah, like if I'm selling crack, I need to report my income. Okay? And that's actually oftentimes how drug warlords, how child traffickers, how kind of that whole dark underbelly of transactions that are happening, what they go away for is tax fraud.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you didn't report the income from your child trafficking business? I'm sorry, that's illegal.
What about with health, or
Yeah.
Sorry?
Small bosses.
household?
Oh, yeah, I mean, and still, I mean, money laundering and tax fraud. Oftentimes, when you can't prove when you can't prove the primary crime, that's what they're incarcerated for. Okay, so let's look at the W-2, and I want you guys to tell me why you think boxes 1, 3, and 5 are different. We're on page 2-5, and this is pretty important. Wages and tax, one number. Social Security wages, another number. Medicare wages, another number. Why?
Because certain things have exemptions, so you don't pay those taxes
For example.
on. Certain retirement accounts, or flex.
Excellent. So, so Flex shows up nowhere. Let me just make sure you understand that. If I have a Flex account, do I pay any taxes on it? None. No FICA, no FIT, no SIP. So if I put $1,000 away in my Flex every year, that does not show up on my W-2 anywhere. Box 2, box 3, let's start there. Social Security wages. I've capped. So that's the most I pay Social Security on, right? Box 3. Box 5 is $137,000. Box 1 is $130,000, roughly. So I really earned the $137,000. But there's something in there that I don't pay tax on, like a health savings account, like an IRA, like a 401k. Okay? Now, let's tie that in, and we're going to keep talking, but let's tie that in to our software. When we go into our input screen for W-2, what box do I have you hit to automatically fill in everything? A little check box, right? But you have to continue to check. I mean, if you're putting in somebody with $25,000 income that's not in 401k, it's going to be the same number. If you've got a high-income person, it's not. It's going to be different numbers. So you've got to have that W-2 right in front of you and input straight from that. Okay? Okay, and then I also want to show you in box, what is that, 12, 10 and 12. Actually, box 10 got me into trouble once. Dependent care benefits are when your employer provides you aid towards taking care of your dependents. You don't see a ton of that here. I missed it on one of my California W-2s, one of my California clients' W-2s. She worked for the state of Cali, and she had about this number. And if you don't have a corresponding bill for at least $5,000 that you enter in your child dependent care credit form, that kicks over as income. So anyways, watch for that. Watch for that. You need to really, particularly at the stage you're at, really eyeball every single box on your W-2 and know what it is. Okay, and then boxes 12, A, B, and C, how the heck do you know what those codes are? Well, you don't. So you would go to irs.gov and pull up your W-2, and on the instructions on the back, it'll tell you what all the different codes are in box 12, and there's a ton of them. There's probably 50 codes. I certainly don't know what they all are. Okay, but if you get W-2s that have any codes in box 12, you gotta go look it up. And then if you don't know how to handle it, you gotta say, hey, how do I handle this fact that they've got, a housing allowance or group-sponsored health insurance or whatever. Okay. So,
Update on that one.
I don't think we're there other than Brooke's not here.
Yeah, she's on her way.
And we'll do it.
Okay, accident and health insurance premiums. My employer pays premiums for my health insurance. Does that show up on my W-2? No, I don't have to pay tax on that. That's a huge tax-free benefit. Do I have to pay if my employer pays what's called AD&D, accidental death and dismemberment? Ever heard of that? They pay for it here. So if I lose a thumb, I get $15,000. If I lose a pinky finger, I only get $7 because it's not as valuable as a thumb.
Yeah, I have one of them.
Yeah, work-based. So those are highly desirable by the IRS. So when your employer pays for those kinds of things, it doesn't show up on your W-2 at all. It's tax-free. Oh, great, Brooke. While you're here, please log in and go into Pro Series. Okay, meals and lodging, you know the rule. What's the rule here? You've heard this in payroll. Don't read here quite yet. If you guys all work for me and I provide you food and housing for my benefit, do you pay tax on it? If you guys all work for me and I'm Facebook and I have a $40 million campus in San Jose and I have a 4-star shop that provides you organic lunches every day, is that taxable to you? Yeah, why? It's not for my benefit. You certainly could go off-site to have your lunch. You certainly could run home and walk your dog. Well, not San Francisco, but anywhere else where you need to drive to work every day. Yeah, so it's not for my benefit. So how do I track that from Facebook? And I've got 20,000 employees. Everybody's running around with a badge, and every time you get a massage or your pet gets cranial sacral therapy, these are the kinds of benefits they have. I'm not making it up. Or you eat lunch, or you get your dry cleaning done, you swipe your badge, and those are it looks free. But it's not really free because it's going to show up on your W-2 at the end of the year because they have the value of those benefits.
In those instances, do they have options for their employees to ask that certain amount of health and checks to enforce the cash?
Certainly. Certainly. My son works for Tesla, and I mean, figuring out what the heck to do on the W-4 was no small feat because they had that laundry list of benefits. And I mean, really, when you think about it, it's like a lot of people in that world don't have kids, they have pets, so they have this full laundry list of benefits for your pets because you don't have kids. People without kids are like, hey, what about my dog? Okay. It's just all crazy, but. Okay, so flexible spending accounts, Amanda brought this up. Anybody care to remind us what a flexible spending account is from payroll class?
Money on your paychecks that you use for medical or child care.
Yeah, and it's pre-tax. But what's the uber benefit of flexible spending accounts over anything else? You not only get out from underneath income tax, you no Social Security or Medicare on it. So it's like totally free money. We here, I think the university gives us up to $1,800 a year. So the first $1,800 of my out-of-pocket medical or dental every year, you just have a little card. I go to the dentist or the pharmacist, and they just swipe my card, and it all comes out completely pre-tax.
So question on that, why does it vary from employer to employer? Do they have, is there a downfall from the employer?
No, for the employer, it's a huge benefit because they don't have to match the FICA. They don't have to match the FICA. A lot of employers don't do it because they just don't understand it.
But why does the university only do 1,800? Because is it,
Oh, that's the maximum legal amount.
oh, wasn't it 5,000?
It was.
Okay.
It was. So,
Don't a lot of employers just They're not-
Absolutely. So this is a little more complex, and I want to get into right this very second. Okay, and then just, put the wait on Brooke, and then Alia. Thank you so much. So I'm wrong on the 1,800. It's 2,650. And I don't know if I do. So here's how that works, Amanda. The university will put in up to $1,800 for me, but if I want the full amount, I've got to have the additional items taken out of my check. But the maximum amount in any given year for medical FSA is $2,650.
Oh, so you get that regardless of if you want to have, like,
Well, no, because here we get a chunk of money, we get like 12 grand a year, and they're like, pick from a laundry list of your benefits. Like, and my health insurance eats up most of it. But if I was on my husband's health insurance, I would be able to do dental insurance and long-term disability and blah, 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 and then I would take the maximum class. Okay, and what's the big thing about FSAs? Let's use it or lose it.
Will literally go away after a certain date.
Yeah, I elect to have, say I work for Daly's Bacon and I elect to have $2 grand a year taken out of my paycheck for my dependent care. And then my husband loses his job and he stays home and watches our kiddos. Actually that's a qualifying event, so that's a bad example. Let's say I elect that for medical and I just don't spend it. What happens to the money they've taken out of my checks? It just goes away.
so you can't have qualifying device delays.
You can have qualifying events, and actually termination of employment is one of them. Health issues, like my husband gets sick, or one of my kids gets sick, or,
So
yeah.
if you were just planning on paying a daycare provider a certain amount, and that's what you had taken out, but then your mom's like, oh, I can watch them.
That's not a qualifying event.
And that only means that you are then prompted to change your benefits with your employer usually, correct?
Prompted to change your benefits from the qualifying event.
The window opens. Yeah.
The window opens, great way to phrase that. The window opens for you to make a change to your FSA.
But what you've already put in, you lose that then?
You can. But I mean, most people are using their FSA as they go. Like if I know, and these numbers are nowhere enough to actually take care of a kiddo every year, or every month. But yeah, no, it's an as you go thing. Most people are using their FSA as they go. Not everyone though.
Is that working like OTC type stuff, or is that like prescription?
The only OTC drugs that you can run through your FSA are like if you've got heart disease and your doctor prescribes aspirin. But like if I go get, topical cream because I've got eczema, no.
But alternatively, an HSA you could use. for something
An
like that.
HSA, okay, different rules. I'm not as conversant. There is more flexibility with an HSA.
Right,
You can buy things like sports wraps
right.
and,
Pretty much anything in like a Walgreens.
no, not pretty much anything at a Walgreens.
Well, like.
But it's an expanded list for sure.
Yeah,
It's an expanded list for sure, but it's a very finite list. And I'm not going to go get a bunch of, I don't know, I can't even think of a good example. I'm not going to go get, earplugs and skin cream and think my HSA is going to cover it until I'm pretty sure that it's on the list. I would go look that up.
yeah, like bike helmets or something like that.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
maybe
that's not gonna
argument for, but it's not.
Okay, and then let's just go through this laundry list of fringe benefits that are provided to me that are not taxable. This first one should look familiar. What the heck does that mean? Employer paid premiums for group term life insurance up to $50 a month. What's that?
When your employer covers part of your premium for your
Yeah.
insurance.
Super standard, like here at the university, we have a life insurance policy for 15 grand. So if I die, my husband gets 15 grand. Is that intended to help support him for the rest of his life? No, it's intended to bury me or premium me or whatever. Bury me back then. I don't know. But no, you don't have to pay any, but if my employer bought a $2 million policy on me, right? Then those premiums that my employer paid on me would be taxable for any face value of between 50,000 and 2 million. Because that's a huge benefit. You would only do that for somebody you really wanted to recruit. Right? Like part of your package, Shyler, if you'll come to work for me, is I'll provide you a $2 million life insurance policy. is part of her compensation, part of me trying to get her on with my company.
And then she surprises me in the year with taxes.
Sorry?
And then she gets surprised me in the year.
Well, if I'm a good HR manager, I'm gonna tell her, hey, by the way, Shyler. And then if Shyler's smart, she's gonna negotiate a bonus that's grossed up to cover her tax on her benefits. Okay, education assistance plans, anything up to $5,250 a year, that I help you with educational assistance, tax-free. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, on Tuesday.
Yeah, I hope not. Qualified employee discounts, you work at Walmart, you get 10% off on everything, you're not gonna get taxed on the value of that 10%. Working condition fringe benefits,
What is the with exceptions though?
if it's over 20% of a discount, I believe is the number. So if I gave you, you work for Albertsons, and you got 50% off on your food bill, that's too much. I think 20% is the maximum amount of discount I can give you without having tax ramifications.
So say you go to a restaurant or something, and you get a free meal or something.
Inconsequential, and that kind of falls under here, de minimis, just like the small stuff. You know, I was at Costco yesterday and I saw one of the guys that works there just came up and grabbed a cup and got a soda. So I'm assuming soda's free for employees that work at home. They're not going to track that, it's de minimis. Working condition fringe benefits, excludable if you could deduct the item on your own as an employee. So say that my employer, I'm a physical therapist and they pay for my annual licensing. Or like as a CPA, I've got to do 40 hours of education every year. And I wish the university paid for it. They don't. I mean, it's expensive. It's $2,000 a year out of pocket for me to do that education. But if they pay for it, it wouldn't be taxable to me because it's an employee expense.
Can you take off the tax?
You used to be able to, and this is what, yes, we did, but we can't anymore since the TCJA, the employee business expenses went away.
So can they do the same, you have like another license and you work somewhere where you've never used it, but they still want to keep that as a benefit because you are maintaining your other license?
No, it's got to be working condition for what I'm doing here. Like if they paid my bar, my annual dues to the bar because I was also an attorney, I don't need to be an attorney for my job here. Okay, value of membership to on-site athletic facilities. We have a gym here on campus. You get to belong to it as a staff member of the University of Montana. Great, not taxable. If they pay for me to belong to the Peak, taxable. Retirement planning services, and then there's a whole other list of excludable fringes. And these tables, honestly, as part of your study for Chapter 2, read through them. And just like what Amanda said, or somebody said the first day of class, there's so many things. You just can't possibly know them all, but hopefully your memory is such that it will prompt you like, oh, there was something weird about athletic facilities. Okay? Prizes and awards. Yay, you're my best saleswoman. I'm going to give you $3,000 or a $3,000 prize. Taxable or non-taxable? Taxable, but there's a couple caveats. If it is an employee award of tangible personal property, what's that? Here's a thing, right? Here's a gold coin. Or in the case of the university, they give you these cheesy hits. 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. It's like amazing. Although, it was really cool. Like, dear friend Nikki Robinson that just retired last spring, she had more than 30 years of service. They carved in the circle and the oval with all the names. They did a certain oval with her name on it. That's really so cool. I didn't know that. I mean, I guess that's better than some. It's there forever. It's there forever. Like, I was a part of this university. I didn't know that. I just got to make it 3 more years. Okay, so or up to $1,600 if you have a qualified plan. But both of those numbers are only for safety or length of service, not for like you're the best saleswoman or you've got the highest retention rate in your department. That doesn't work. If you achieve some sort of safety goal or just pure length of service. And like this kind of stuff, like, you know, yay, I just won $100,000 on Jeopardy. It's like, oh, yeah, not really. Because you're going to get a 1099. And you're not just going to pay FIT on it, you're going to pay both shares of FICA. Anytime you're 1099, you guys, or 1099 miscellaneous, it's SE income, self-employment income.
So with the, length of service stuff, so say you're an employee and then you get a raise, like a certain amount of extra pay because you've been there for so many years, that's not technically part of your hourly rate wage, that's not technically.
That's not going to be handled by us, the wages. Okay, Joseph is an employee of Vesuvius Statuaries. He receives a clock for 20 years of service valued at $1,500. The award is not considered a qualified plan award. How much does he get to exclude? $400. Okay, so $1,100 of that clock is going to go in his income, which Joseph might be like, I don't really want the clock. I don't really want the clock, so I got a tax bill on the clock. I don't need a clock. I got a clock. Okay.
But didn't you say it was 4 terms of service?
It is, you, up to $400, but otherwise you've got to have a written qualified plan. Remember how we used to talk in payroll about accountable and non-accountable plans? Anytime that I do something like this qualified plan or accountable plan, that means you've got to actually go to the Internal Revenue Service site and pull a template and fill the document out and have your board of directors or your, your partnership group vote on it, notarize it, and put it in the corporate book.
You change the stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Okay, this is a little bit of a tricky area. What's an annuity? You guys should remember this from personal finance. Go ahead, yeah. So take what up? What makes an annuity an annuity? Okay, so I put money into my account, my 403B, which is like a 401k for a nonprofit. I work for a nonprofit, I put money away every year, that's an annuity. Then on the back end, Kim, what happens?
I think you get either your tax and you take that,
So one day, I'm going to be ready to retire, I have this chunk of money, and what are my choices? All right, I can manage it myself and be like, I think I'm going to live to 83. And I'm going to do the math based upon present value of an annuity tables. And I'm going to be like, oh, I can take out $2,286 a month, every month, if I earn 4% between now and the time I'm 83. Yay. Okay? It's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to literally run out of money when I'm 83. So maybe I don't want to take that risk. Maybe I say to Scott, who manages a fund, hey, let me give you my money, and you do the calculations, and you take the risk, and you tell me how much I'm going to get a month. And Scott's like, I'll give you $1,986 every month as long as you live. So I'm like, okay, well, that's $300 a month hit, but I've got to carve off my retirement budget. But if I go to 103, he keeps sending me a check every month. Oh, cool. But if I walk out of signing over all my money to him, and I walk out in front of a bus and get mowed down, my heirs never get a penny. And he keeps my whole life savings. And that's how annuities work. So I can tell you, I have not made the decision what we're doing yet because it just makes me so anxious to even think about it. I just feel like I'm going to go sick. So my sister did half-seats. She turned half over to somebody and then she was doing it on her own half-seats. And I'm thinking maybe that's the direction I go because it just seems too crazy to do all one or all the other. You have to be so careful that the fees do not eat up any of your interest. And that's the other thing. I mean, I feel like when I get there that I'm astute enough that I can parse that out. But it's just that fear of like, and I'm not really a fear-driven person, but just, you work your whole life, you save this chunk of money, and then something happens, you get cancer a year after you sign over your life's earnings, And your kids and your spouse are like, that sucks for us. Yeah, but you're dead, but they're not, you know. Okay, so what we're gonna work on here is also Kim's point, which is depending upon how I funded that chunk of money over my life, when I pull it out, some of it's gonna be taxable and some of it's gonna be tax-free. And it's based upon two things. How much money did I turn over, i.e. the annuity purchase price, and the mortality tables provided by the IRS. And really, the IRS is gonna tell you how long you're gonna live, okay? And it's basically, are you a woman or a man? It used to be smoking, non-smoking, woman, smoking, non-smoking, man, but now it's just male and female. And they're gonna tell you how long you're gonna live based upon average mortality tables, and that's what the calculations are based on.
When did you have?
Don't know.
Well,
Okay.
If you were a smoker, you'd be expected to live less time, so you'd be able to take a bigger tax deduction each year.
Oh, yeah, that's probably it right there, certainly.
I missed that one. Sorry.
No, his speculation is that obviously the mortality tables for smokers were less than non-smokers, and so there would have been a bigger deduction if for people that have lesser mortality tables. So,
So now the smokers just get screwed again.
well, maybe self-screw, I don't know.
You say you were a smoker, just have one cigarette and be like, yeah, I smoke.
Yeah, right?
I can't say I ever had anybody do that.
Or if you smoke weed in Colorado, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. That's a whole nother, it's really interesting, you guys, as part of my continuing professional education, like these 40 hours, there's a whole new barrage of providers that want you to take their continuing professional education that's all dealing with marijuana. I mean, I get 15 hits a day, excuse the pun, in my email on like, do you want to learn, yeah, I mean, revenue recognition for marijuana providers, and how do you write off fixed assets for distribution and logistics of marijuana? And it's like, I mean, that's not ever going to be my client base, but it's just interesting. Okay, so we're going to look at the simplified method, and you're generally required to use this method for any annuities that were purchased after 1996. So that's now, 23 years ago? So unless you've got a pretty elderly client, not that elderly, but yeah, 80 or older. Okay, but let's just look at really what the rule is. So, and this is what we're going to crunch through. The first thing that you want to know, and obviously if you're purchasing an annuity, part of your analysis of whether to do this or not is what's your highest marginal tax rate in retirement, right? For both state and fed, so that's going to help make this decision happen. But the first thing you do is calculate something called an exclusion ratio, and this should make sense to you. Say I gave Scott $300,000, that's how much I've saved my whole life, right? And he says, I'm going to pay you $1,992 a month, and I go to the IRS tables and they say I'm going to live 20 more years. I'm going to take that $300,000, divided by, so that's how much I put in, divided by what I'm bringing out of it, right? $1,992 a month times 12 times 20 years. So the amount I put in divided by the amount I'm going to pull out is the amount that I'm not going to have to pay tax on. That's excluded. Then I want to find the total amount to either exclude or include.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I
Sure.
didn't follow that out.
Well, we're going to do an example. So basically, if I give him $300,000 and I actually live exactly how long the IRS tables say I'm going to live, and based on that, I pull out $500,000, because there's interest in there.
Yeah.
I don't just give him 300, he gives me 300, that would be silly.
Uh-huh.
I give him 300 and it earns interest, and then every payment that I'm pulling out has a component of my original principal and then my interest earned.
That he's making for having the bottom. Okay.
So what kind of person, stop. I know.
He's a certified financial planner. He sells financial products.
But are you putting your money into like a 401k type of thing, or what's
He's putting my money wherever the parameters of his proxy statement say they're gonna go. So if I'm super high risk and he's a gold speculator, I'm like, I want to earn 20% on my annuities, I want you to go into gold in Bolivia. If it's me, I'm like, I would like that municipal bonds, please, or we cannot lose this single cent of principal, and we're gonna earn 2%.
Or could even though you would said that that's how much you're giving him, and then.
The calculations have to be based on some interest rate. And that interest rate is predicated upon what kind of product he sells. Do you want nice thick wastewater treatment bonds? Yes, please, or international gold derivatives.
So that's set out by you.
Yeah, and that's
Really?
I'm saying, there's so many things to look at when you buy an annuity.
Yeah.
Your risk factor, your fees, how's he legally bound to
Right.
invest my chunk of money?
Whether it's a fiduciary.
Yes, fiduciary responsibility. If I tell him wastewater treatment bonds, and then he goes and does, Bitcoin futures, I mean, he could be in prison for that,
Yeah.
because he's violated his fiduciary duty.
Uh-huh.
And that's the kinds of things you're like, the Ponzi schemes. And who was the guy in New York, Bernie?
Madoff.
Huh? No, what did you say? Bernie, it was Bernie, somebody.
Madoff.
Madoff, yeah.
So, can I ask a question?
Sure.
I know you told me this, but, so with the tables, the amounts
Uh-huh.
that you pay tax on, that's not just for the life expectancy time, that's for the whole life of the thing.
Right. So again, based on this, I give him my 300 grand, he cuts me a check for a year, I fill out my tax return, and then I have a aneurysm and drop dead. He keeps the money. But what that helps do is you live 25 years longer than he expected. Right, so it's just risk pool stuff. It's like any insurance, it's risk pool.
And that's when you become the
Huh? Okay, so let's try one of these. Let's just try one. I want you to crunch through it. Get out your calculators, please, and your pencils. So my buddy Din has saved $750,000 in his retirement account. And he decides to purchase an annuity. And we crunch it, and again, it's like, is he earning 2%, 3%, 7%, 11%? That's what he works out with his annuity provider. And he's going to pull $4,800 a month out. Good job, Dan, saving.
You remind us of where these tax tables are in the book.
They are the mortality tables. So let me just finish reading this, and then I'll tell you. He goes to the table, and they say they might not even be replicated in here. They say he's going to live another 19 years. Well, it's not as easy to see. It's entered, it's done in months. It's on pages 215 and 216, but the numbers they're giving you are based in months, not years. So my question is, how much of his $4,800, so how much does he earn a year from his annuity? Yeah, 4,800 times 12, right? My question is, how much of that is excludable? And then conversely, how much of that is includable? So first we have to figure out the exclusion ratio. What did he give the annuity provider divided by what's he expected to pull out of it over the course of his 19 years of projected life? So 68.5% of everything he pulls out is excludable. That's really the return of his principal.
Taxes on that.
It's a return of his principal, his own money.
Okay. I get what, I finally get it, sorry.
Therefore, of the amount that he gets, $39,456 is excluded, the rest is included. We're crunching through this calculation, but let me just tell you, in the real world, you're gonna get a 1099, anyone know what you get for retirement distributions? 1099R for retirement,
Oh, I did this.
IMT. Can we just go through these really quick, put these in your notes? What's a 1099 miss?
That one thing, like,
Miscellaneous, and what kinds of stuff goes on there?
non-employee income.
Non-employee compensation, primarily, because that's what we've learned from it. There's another really important thing that we'll use in this class. A 1099 miss reports rents and royalties. So if I use a property management firm and I go a bungalow that I Airbnb out, I'm going to get a 1099 miss that has rents and royalties on it. If I Airbnb out my basement, Airbnb is going to generate a 1099 miscellaneous for me at the end of the year. And then there's other stuff too, fishing boats proceeds and golden parachutes and things that are a little just obscure. I'm not going to hit the obscure stuff, I'm going to hit the most like status quo stuff. Okay, 1099 DIV is for dividends, and it splits out what from what type of dividends. Well, we talked about 3 different kinds. Ordinary dividends,
Capital gains.
good, capital gain distributions,
And then non-ordinary.
qualified. Qualified. It'll split it into 3 boxes. CGD, which is capital gain distributions. Ordinary dividends, taxable or ordinary rates, and then qualified dividends. Are also taxed at lower rates. I'm really learned about that.
But different than capital gain rates.
No, but they end up in different parts of your tax return. So 1099 INT is for interest. 1099R is for retirement.
Quick question about the INDs. So I make like maybe 12 cents on my savings.
You gotta get to a
account.
buck. It's gotta be more than 50 cents.
Okay, I was gonna say, why doesn't my bank send me an INT?
Okay, gotta get to a buck. What was it? Oh, 1099 SS, you can guess what that is. For Social Security. 1099G, gambling.
How do they track that?
If you make, that they don't track little earnings, but if you make over $1,300 at one sitting, someone's gonna show up and want your Social Security number.
So they consider little under $1,500?
Yes.
Cool. So like they're gonna come like before they give you the check? And
Oh,
say,
yeah.
"We need your info?
Absolutely.
Even like with, of the bars?
Anything, if you make more, and again, that number changes every year, so that might be a little bit on the low side, it might be like 1,400 now. But yeah, you're not gonna cash out.
Is that what those players clubs are about? I mean, I know that they give like rewards to.
That's just to sucker you and keep them coming back, like you're somehow on the upside of the game.
Right.
You know, when your taxes are like,
Oh, yeah, I
oh,
didn't know if they put this, you know, those numbers.
Okay, so if they're paying 68% of the income.
Yeah.
$39,000, so technically it looks like he's making $18,144.
Yes. Oh, that was my point. I got lost in what I was doing. So his income's gonna come by through on a 1099R, but then there's a little box that just says taxable amount. And they're gonna do the calculation. But like anything, you've gotta be like, oh,
What if you manage your own finances?
if you manage your own retirement, you're doing these calculations. How much that came out every year, and that's why, that's another thing that causes me great anxiety. It's like, there's a lot to self-management.
So with DIV, it's the $39,000
Is excluded. He doesn't pay tax on that,
he doesn't,
because that's a return of his own principal. The assumption is the rest is earnings.
so the 68.5%, he does pay tax on that.
Doesn't pay tax on that, that's his exclusion ratio. Therefore, his inclusion ratio is 31.5.
And that would go,
That's
right.
The 31.5% is including gross income. Okay, employee annuities, there's precious few of these left. Let's say, I worked at the smoke jumpers, they still have this. And the Montana, I don't even know, I guess. Huh? Electricians. So, so the city that employs me or the electrician firm that employs me puts money into a good old fashioned pension plan for me every month. Is that taxable to me? No. What happens when I pull that out? It's all taxable because I never paid into it. There is no principal investment for my part. So it's all about, the question is always, what was the tax benefit going in, and that is going to balance the tax benefit or the tax hit coming out.
So employer 401k matches,
Employer 401k match is taxable coming out.
Oh, really?
Sure.
if you pay tax on it beforehand, so you have a Roth 401k,
Yeah.
can you do that with an employer?
Yes, you can, but they've got to have it set up. You can't do that. You can't go to your employer and go like, I want to be Roth. They've got a qualified plan and they've made a decision with their financial advisors based on what they think is best for the majority of their employees.
So when if you were to decide to do an annuity, that chunk of money, does that have to then be taken out of said 401k or whatever, and then there's a tax moment there, and then another tax moment going in?
That's a really good question.
Or does it just kind of roll over somehow?
No, so you can't take it up penalty free until you're 59 and a half.
Right.
Even if you're rolling,
Right.
Even if what?
even if you're rolling it.
Even if you're rolling it. So that's a really, really, really good question, which I really should know the answer to because I turn 59 and a half next year. Could I take my
I mean,
chunk?
that's okay, maybe I'm getting in the weeds here.
Yeah, a little bit in the weeds, but it's a valid question. Can you actually write that question down? And I will look into that because that's a really good question that begs an answer. Okay, life insurance proceeds. So your spouse, your partner, your parent, your aunt dies and you're the beneficiary. Taxable or not? Non-taxable. Non-taxable. There's exceptions to it. Some people buy big life insurance policies as part of business continuation planning. You know, the four of us are partners in a business, and if any one of us dies, we leave the other three $1.5 million because we think that's going to be how long it takes to replace one of us. There's exceptions to this. I'm not going to go into it. I've never personally seen it. On the whole, and some people's families like, my grandma died and left me $200,000. I have to pay tax on it. Nope.
But in an estate, if you get their estate stuff,
So estates are beyond our scope here. With the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, the current administration raised the limit on taxable estates is $11 million per person. So if you're a married couple and the gross value of your assets are less than $22 million, you have nothing to worry about from the state tax standpoint. So I don't know about you, but that excludes everybody I know.
Maybe your husband marry someone else in that question.
If your cousin marries somebody else.
No, the end of two ends, isn't that your husband's name?
Oh, yes. I run out of ability to be creative after you write 6,000 of these things. Okay, biatic settlements. Has anybody ever heard of these accelerated death benefits? Biatic settlements. They got to be a really big deal in the early 80s when AIDS came on the scene in our country. And what it says is, I go to, I can just want to do this kind of sensitive topic. I go to Mythical Tom, and I say, Tom, I know you're diagnosed with a chronic, you have a death sentence, essentially. And we've got two doctors that sign off that say you've got less than 24 months to live. And you've got a life insurance policy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to buy your life insurance policy from you and give you cash. You know, awesome. He's like, great, I need money to live, I can't work anymore, right, da-da-da-da-da, this is pre-FMLA. So I become the beneficiary on Tom's life insurance policy for $100,000, and I give him 30 grand. And then Tom dies, and I cash the policy, I get the 100 grand, I just made 70. But it was kind of, it was thought to be a win-win because Tom really needs the money right now, okay? So, but what happened, it's like anything, had a profit motive, I'm like, wow, that's a hell of a good deal. I'm gonna go into the population where I think this disease is hitting, and I'm gonna buy 5,000 of these policies, and I'm gonna package them and make a product out of them, and then I'm gonna go sell them to senior citizens in Florida, because they have a really high yield
As an investment.
as an investment. So I go into the population, and I got 5,000 of these policies are all diagnosed with AIDS, and I package them all up, and I take them to Florida, this is a real story, and I sell them to all these old people, because they're like, woo, I'm gonna make 30%, 30% return on investment, and I didn't really like that population anyways.
Seems inherently evil.
And then guess what happens?
Some of them live.
They found the AZT, the cocktail, the AZT that saved lives came on, and people didn't die. Now they took AZT, and they're living with HIV virus, but they're not dying. Now the people in Florida are like, they were supposed to die. What happened to my money? They didn't die. It's a really kind of crazy thing. Now, we can still do it.
Yeah, everything about that just makes you cringe.
Oh, I mean, just super cringe. Other than the very first thing that you or I could do today. I've got a life insurance policy. It's got a pretty big face value on it. And if today, it's not a great example of my life, but for a lot of people, like today, if I found out that I was terminally ill, you've got pancreatic cancer, you've got a 2% chance of living. I might choose to take 60% of, say, $300,000 in my pocket now and be like, help each of my kids get into a house. Or whatever, something I could enjoy. That would not be my choice, but I get your point. Okay, so you can do that now, and the point is of all of that is excludable if I can show I've got the 24-month life sentence or chronically ill. I've got ALS. I'm not actually probably going to die in 24 months, but I'm clearly going to be incapacitated.
So you're saying you, as a person who's selling it, you don't have to.
I don't have to pay. I sell you my $300,000 policy. You give me 180 grand. I sign you over as beneficiary. I don't have to pay tax on that 180.
What about the person who purchased it?
You're going to have to pay tax on the differential, obviously, as income. And that's what you do for a living.
So this is like a third-party thing, though? This wouldn't be done through your insurance company?
It would be done through a viatical agent.
Okay.
Okay, well, because I have a friend whose husband died a couple years ago, and they took out like half of the insurance policy.
That would have been a viatical settlement.
Okay, so I assumed it was just through, I mean, I wasn't really poking at her, like, so when he died, what did he get?
No, nobody's asking anybody else what did you get when you died.
No, I
But
know
this
that.
is how they work.
Sounds like a payday loan for your dad.
It kind of is. It kind of is, and the yield is not on your side.
Exactly, like.
But most people that are in this situation and need money aren't dickering over 10%, 12%. It's like, I need to keep a roof over my head and have some dignity
Yeah.
in the last part of my life. I'm not going to go into that. These are all past our scope. Okay, interest income. Where does this show up? I'm going to talk about another 3 or 4 minutes, then we're going to go on software. Where does interest income show up? Yeah, it comes in on a 1099 INT source document, and then what form does it go on your tax return? Sorry, B. And then it's also going to be a line item on what schedule that shows all of your gross income. 1. You got a source document, 1099 INT. That comes in the mail. You enter it in your software in an interest worksheet. It shows up on the 1099-B, but only if it's over what? $1,500. And then the big number from the Schedule B is going to flow to Schedule 1 with all your different items of gross income on. Just like if you have 2 or 3 W-2s. Okay? So Schedule 1 accumulates all of your income, gross income, and all of your adjustments for AGI. That's what we're focused on now. But interest gets interesting. So, Government bonds, U.S. government bonds. I'm not going to go through each of these because it's not really super important, but be aware that federal, or that interest on federally backed bonds are not taxable
On the federal. But are on Montana, or am I missing?
just a sec, this is always so confusing to me, are not taxable for state.
Oh,
I have to do a little chart here. I have to do a little chart here. So Montana, taxable, yes or no? 1040, taxable, yes or no? Okay, so any corporate bond, right? I just bought a Google bond, I just bought a Bethlehem Steel bond, and I got interest on it. Obviously, it's taxable for both. I just bought a US backed government bond. And it's not just direct like US bonds, it's like anything backed by the full faith and credit of the US government, like Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac or any of those quasi-federal agencies. Taxable for feds? Yep. Taxable for Montana? Nope.
Is that something that the Fed has pushed forward to all states, or does Montana choose not to?
I can't answer that, but I know that one of the big benefits for U.S. government bonds is that, you know, they're tax-free for states. Every single state treat it like that? I can't answer that, but I know that's generally a selling point of them.
it's certainly not the state
Now-
that don't have income tax.
Right, yeah, it's no benefit if you're in a state with no income tax.
Yeah.
So where is this going to show up, you guys, on your manual recap for Montana?
As a deduction.
Reduction, right? Remember, there's two columns on your manual recap for Montana, addition and reduction.
Yeah.
This is a reduction.
For
Now,
subtraction is the other word that you can use, is that right? Addition, subtraction?
yeah, I think on here I call them additions and reductions. Okay, then what if I buy a Montana muni bond? And somebody asked about that yesterday. What's muni, or Tuesday? What's muni again? Municipal. So give me an example of a Montana muni bond.
The water, yeah.
Yeah, I'm putting in a new water treatment plant in Bozeman. I'm building a community center in, you know, Dillon, whatever. And we bonded. We bonded this building, right? We, as taxpayers in Montana, are gonna pay for it over 30 years. So if I bought a piece of that, it's not taxed anywhere. Do you have to, just, let me finish this, because I always have to do this chart, otherwise I can't figure it out either. Do I have to input this anywhere then? It's not taxed anywhere?
Yeah, you still have to.
You do, because it impacts other behind the scenes calculations, like how much of your social security check is taxable, blah, blah, blah. You've got to input it. We're gonna go through this. It's not like, oh, I don't have to worry about it because it's not taxable anywhere, you still have to input it. And the last one is non-Montana muni. So I buy a school bond in Austin, Texas. State municipal bonds are never taxable at the federal level. But because it's out of state, guess what I have to do with it in Montana? Yep, and that's called an addition. And what I've got up here in red is where it's going to show up on your little manual recaps. Okay? So that's lots easier to follow than the screens. We've talked about the three kinds of dividends: ordinary, capital, and qualified. This is taking us into qualifying dividends and where they fall. And you have to know this because there's no way you're going to be able to calculate your tax on your manual recaps unless you do. And I know this is complicated, but it's really not, so bear with me. So, as Amanda asked to clarify earlier, if a dividend is not qualifying or not capital, it's just taxed at your ordinary rate, just like your W-2, nothing special. If it's qualifying, and you'll know that because it'll show up in the little box called qualifying on your 1099-R, and you're married, filing joint, and your taxable income is between here and here, you pay 0. You're married, filing joint, and your TI is between here and here, you pay 15. You can read this. If you're single, here's your numbers. If you're head of household, here's your numbers. So you need to know this, and it's in your book, in one of your tables, which you can find it. Somebody can take that. You do need to know that, because it will, when you figure out your tax on your manual recap, if you've got qualifying dividends or capital activity, you can't just go straight to the tax tables.
I had a question. If, you know, you were at 77,200 and then like, oops, you just got one for $1, do you have to pay the 15% on the entire
Nope, that's the whole idea of marginal taxes.
Okay. So it's just 15% on that $1.
$1, yeah.
From the next.
That's such a misconception. People are like, I'm getting a raise and it's throwing me into the new tax bracket. Like everything's
Yeah, I
going to be
know.
taxed at 22% now. No, it's not. Just the amount over into that new marginalized bracket.
I assume this works the same way?
If I make $100 million a year, my first, $38,601 is still taxed at 10%.
Does it work like in steps then, the whole way?
Yes. Yep. Okay, you know all this, 1099 INT, 1099 DIV. I just talked about muni bond interest. I'm going to stop there, and let's go on to our software. What screen am I on? See, and this is only half a chance.
Oh, were we gonna go over the, manual recap too?
Oh, slide 30, that's good. Yes. So,